of the questions that I keep getting is, how do I take maybe an old quiz that I already have existing on a Word document, and how do I convert it to a Google quiz or a Google form that I can give in my Google Classroom? So the video today, I'm going to take you step by step on how to take your existing Word quiz that you would give normally when we were in-person instruction, and how do I turn that into a Google form. My goal is to help those of you that have a lot of resources in Word format to help you convert those resources into Google Forms so that you can make the most of your remote learning experience. What you do is go to the home page and let's look for the waffle, and we see all our apps here. And since we're working with the form, let's go ahead and try to find forms. Now, sometimes you won't find it right away. You might have to sign in. So we can also go to the drive. From the drive, we can find forms. And so now we have our untitled form. So that is step one. Now we're making this test off of a document that was saved in a Word file. So we have this Beowulf doc. And we can see that we have a Beowulf test. And so this was a test generated by a teacher who no longer wants to, or because of remote learning rather, she wants to give this as a Google form quiz. And as we set up the form, we can give it the same title, Beowulf, and we can call this a test. And notice that as soon as you type it here, it should change up here in the title. And so again, remember, with anything Google, anytime you open it, make modifications or changes to it, it saves automatically. So that is the beautiful thing. So we can go to settings, and now here we can choose to collect email addresses so that when the students sign in, we're going to collect their email address. We're working on a secure domain or a school domain, so we know that we don't want anyone outside of that domain to access the test, so we're going to leave that checked. We're going to limit to one response. And then you have options so that the students can edit after submit, or see a summary of charts and text responses. We're going to go ahead and leave those blank for now. I want to show a progress bar, and I want to shuffle the order of the question. And then we are going to make this a quiz. So you do have the option, if you're working exclusively with Chromebooks, to turn on lock mode. And what lock mode does is it prevents the students from using other applications while taking this quiz. Okay, so in other words, they cannot search the internet for the answer, right? But again, this only works with Chromebooks. So if you have a kid on a PC or you have a kid on a Mac, they might still be able to access other tabs. Release the grade immediately after submission, or you can choose to do it manually. So let's leave it on immediately. The kids will get their responses right away. And I'm going to check off missed questions and correct answers. So they will not be able to see these two things. And we're going to leave the point values. I want them to see what point values each question has. And so now I can go back to the question, and let's start with question one. Now, if we see our document here on the right, the Beowulf test, the original we're working off of, we notice that it's a multiple choice. So now all we're going to do is we're going to copy and then paste. And automatically it will give you the option to do a short answer, but we know it's multiple choice, so we're going to click multiple choice, and then we're going to copy and we're going to paste under option 1. And since I copied everything and I paste it here, the cool thing about forms is that it will understand that these are all different responses. And so now the next thing I need to do is create an answer key where I choose the right answer. And now I can assign points. I'm going to have this 5 points. And then I click on done. Now right here, required. Okay. And I can add a question by looking for this plus sign. Now, since I'm in split screen mode, it's going to send it to the bottom. But if I go full screen, this goes to the side. So that's how I add a question. Now, if I do make a mistake, I can always go to the 3 dots and click undo, and my last modification was undone. Okay. So that's the cool feature. Now, what I forgot to do is it does collect the student's email address, but I want to also collect the student's name. So I'm going to make a new question and I'm going to move it to the top. Okay, and you can do it by grabbing these little dots and moving it back and forth. And it's going to be short answer, but I want to require it, which means the student can't skip over this step. And this will become important when you're trying to grade and organize all the responses. And answer key, it's going to be 0 points. And so now let me add my second question. Now this one, again, we're going to go back to the bottom. And now we can continue with question 2. So let me go back to split screen and done 5 more questions, and I kind of just skipped over the recording of that for brevity. But let's look at some of the other things that are going on with this document. Now, if I look at the original, I can see that in Beowulf there are some interesting spellings of names, but we do have some misspellings, and they do show up here. So if you have an extension like Grammarly, it will highlight the mistakes and then you can correct them. Okay. Now notice when I was copying and pasting, 3 got in between 4 and 5. So again, I want to go to the little dots and I'm just going to drag it back into place. And so now I have question 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I can go back and I can check to see if I have my point value, my answer key, and that I've required each question. See, this one I didn't, so I need to click on required so that it cannot be skipped. And so far for these 5 questions. Now, another option you can do is to put in a drop-down menu or a checkbox for the period. If you're giving this to multiple classes, you can add a class period menu and you can type in your first, second, third period, and make this a requirement. This will be much easier. Leave the point value at 0. There is no answer key. And to test this out, to make sure that everything is working the way it should, you can go to the 3 dots, preview, and now you can take the quiz yourself. Okay, and so let's see, and I'm just going to click on anything. Now you notice we already see a problem. We have question 3 at the top, class period here, and it seems to be out of order. Correct? Now you might be saying why. And so when we go back and we go to the settings, remember we clicked on shuffle order of questions. So this will not work if we have our questions numbered. So if we want to keep it as shuffled as ordered, or shuffle the order, we're going to have to get rid of the number of each question. Okay, so I wanted you guys to see the difference between shuffle in order and keep in order. So if I remove the number, now you see that my class period is the third question, or the second question, and my name is the last question. So since you don't want the kids to have to worry about that, what we're gonna do is, let me get out a split screen, is we're going to click on this icon right here at the very bottom where it says add section. Okay, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a section 1 that's gonna have the title of the test, the name, and let's go ahead and drag class period into there. Okay, and then we're gonna select, we're gonna call this multiple choice section. And so now everything under this part will be shuffled, since I do want my questions to be shuffled, the order, so that my students aren't tempted to share the answers with one another. And that's one of the reasons the shuffle order is there, so that you don't have kids trading answers. So we have that. Now, if we go back to this section, you also have the option to add a title or description, right? Which is what's here. You have an option to add a picture, right? And so I'm going to go to Google search and I'm going to type in Beowulf. And I'm going to insert. And so now I get this picture of Beowulf, and I can move it all the way to the top. I can even change the size of the picture by clicking on it. Now you notice it does end up on the side. So I'm gonna again go to my options and I'm going to center align it. So now it comes out in the middle. And I can make this, I can just give some description. Beowulf fighting the dragon. And so now I have a picture to go along with it. Now I can even add a video. And so it is possible that you could create a video instruction of this where you greet your students and you tell them what they're going to be doing and start. You could also have them watch something on YouTube and then ask them questions on it. So it is really cool. But for now, let's keep it like that. And let's test it out one more time. So I have my first section. Okay, and that's what it's going to say, or how it'll read. And then I go to my next. Now, notice that I try to go to next, but it asks me to fill out the required questions. And now I can do this part. Now, if you notice here, this question we forgot to assign a point value to. So let's go back really quick and let's find that question. We click on the question itself and we found where we missed our point value. Add point value, and then we are done. So let's go back to the test. Let's refresh, reload, And again, we have to do the same thing, class period. And then now we get this. And all the point values are there. So the students know how many points they have. And we're just going to answer, submit. And now I can go back and I can see that I have 2 responses. And it tells me the first time I got a 5 out of 25, the second time I got a 0 out of 25. And it'll break it down by name of the kid, correct answer, so you can see the data to see which questions gave students trouble or which ones were good. You can look at the individual test summary, or you can go by questions and see how everyone answered. Now let's go to, I want to go back to responses, and I want to click on the spreadsheet, create, and now everything will be sent to this spreadsheet. And so now I can filter by class period, I can filter by name, and then I can filter by grade. Or if I'm doing a quick grading, I can take this grade and put it into my grade book, and I have the name of the student and I have the class period, so I can filter those later. So now that we have our quiz set up, let's go ahead and assign it. Now, when you create a new assignment, you do have an option to create a quiz, and you would do the same steps that we just did, but using this generated quiz, this blank quiz. You would go in and change the title to fit whatever you were doing. Now, since we made the form outside of the Google Classroom, we didn't use this assignment option. We can X this out, and we're going to add. And we're going to search for our Beowulf test. And I have it right here. And now it works just the same way. Now, I want to talk about this grading import, or this grade importing. This is going to allow us to import the grade from the quiz into the Google Classroom. Now, my particular school district uses not only Google Classroom, but a Skyward grading gradebook. So for me, it really doesn't matter whether or not I import it into the Google Classroom. Our Skyward and our Google Classroom are not synced, so I still have to manually put in the grades. And that's where having this spreadsheet comes in handy. But if you are at a school that does the Google Classroom, and your classroom grades are synced to your gradebook, this is a very handy feature, because what will happen is, as soon as the students finish their test and you release the scores, you can go to the classwork page and import student grades, and I'll show you what that looks like right now. So I'm going to give it a title. Now when I go to classwork and I see the Beowulf test, I can view assignment, and right here, this is where we would import the grades. So once I click import grades, now obviously it's telling me, it's going to give me this warning, are you sure that I want to import the grades? I'm going to say import, and it will import whatever grades were there. Now, I don't have any students in this mock classroom, and that's why it's not showing up. But this would definitely save you some time. So I hope you found that video informative. If there's any other questions or comments that you have, please leave them in the comment box. If you have an idea for a future video, leave that as well. I hope that you find Google Forms useful, and I hope that you have a great school year.